to see everyone. How did we do last week? We ended up teaching. So I left it with one of three guys. Was it Daniel? Was it Ben? So we're working our way through Job. In probably of all the books we've covered so far, this one has been scantily covered, just because of several interruptions. Come on in, Prudence. Come on in.
Come on in.
Come on in.
Hey guys, come on in.
So yes, we'll finish up Job today. We're going to talk about probably three topics. One is dinosaurs, two is forgiveness, three is how God ended up blessing Job at the end of his life. So that's kind of my agenda eventually. Connie wants to hear about the dinosaurs. That's why we have Connie with us. That's a great Connie Johnson.
Hey, John.
So next week we have a combined ABF that kind of reviews the fall, where we're going, kind of projections and vision and so on. Back on the 11th, we'll be back in here and from, come on, Mary.
Morning. Hi, come on in.
So we will cover Psalms this whole fall, so that's exciting. So September through December, 150 Psalms. We do have a notebook if you like to follow with a journal, a hard copy journal. Some of you do things online. Some of you are so smart you just do it online. That is available next week with the booklets, the peak notebooks. But we will finish up Job here today, get into Psalms, move forward. We do want to pray for the minds. I know we've started up. David, what's it look like? You started on this week?
Oh.
What's the attitude, spirit on campus first week?
I think it's kind of getting everyone back to normal. It's like, we just kept like the whole mask thing and everything, the vaccinations and that stuff. Everyone's just trying to I think everyone's trying to get back to normal to what it was before. Yeah. Good. Yeah, that's encouraging. Hey, Daniel, good morning.
Hey, Daniel.
So pray for the school of minds as to when we started our study and what night, what topic, and speakers. My trip to California was good. I left last Thursday and taught Thursday night at Hamilton Square Baptist Church. Very strategic church, location right in the middle of the city, up on the hill. Phenomenal facilities, probably maybe a $30 million building. It's unbelievable location and the cost of San Francisco, which is so they're in a great spot. And the topic was talking about training for reaching collegians. So they have colleges in every direction. So just up the hill further is the oldest college in San Francisco. It's called the University of San Francisco. It's a Jesuit school, which means it's Catholic. 28% of the students are Catholic, the rest are not. We were there on move-in day, talked with their leaders, and they shared that we would not be able to do a Bible study there. We have to go to the Catholic ministry department. So we're kind of limited. Even though it's funded by public funds, we're going to be not able to get on campus there. We do Bible studies off, of course. So that was one school we looked at, so a religious school. And then we went to Hastings Law School, one of the leading law schools in the country, and went down and toured that. They're very receptive. Students, very, very sharp. Your medical law schools are very sharp. So that's less than a mile away from the church, walking distance. So that's something we're looking at to see the Lord open. With special prayer meetings, asking God to uniquely lead us to which campus to start on. And we thought that the Lord was leading us to the third school, which was San Francisco State. 26,000 students, 10.2 miles from the church, a little further than the others. But kind of a conventional state college kind of feel. All the ball fields and dorms, and out there housing is very expensive. So people are buying old RVs, just pieces of junk, and if they can drive them to the side of the road up there, is park up just by the road. So it's just junk after junk after junk out there, and so they have a lot of RVs right there at San Francisco State. Met two students that I could witness to. I'll share a little bit of that this morning in my sermon. Both were unbelievers, one an atheist, one a Buddhist, but very open, very respectful. We felt that if we start anywhere, there are people in the church there that work there, in essence, they have students there. So that seems to be a good start. Probably the highlight was going to the City College of San Francisco, 65,000 students, multiple campuses. We went to 2 of them. One was a satellite, one was the main. We got to the main campus. To Saturday, it looked pretty quiet. We drove around the back and came to a fantastic football field. AstroTurf just installed, unbelievable complex, a big sign where they have been the national champions 11 years in junior colleges in America. They won last year, so the best junior college football program. And there were 2 guys out still practicing after their practice had ended, probably by about an hour. One guy's name is Jamal, and 213 pounds of just raw power and speed, tailback. So Jamal.
Hey,
And the
Brandon.
other guy, come on in, Brandon, the other guy, his name was
Jim.
Dan, and he was from Shanghai, China. And he's the long snapper. That's all he does is snap 15-yard snaps. And he came from Shanghai and went to LSU. Some good football. LSU was national champions a couple years ago. Came right on the heels of the national championship and competed with another long snapper and got beat out on the position. So second string long snapper for LSU. That's a big program. That's SEC. SEC's, I think, best of all. So anyway, he transferred to this school to be their long snapper. And I'll tell a little bit about the story about Dan and Jamal. Really neat guys. I'm hoping that right now it's 8 o'clock, 8:15 in California. We're hoping that Dan will be at church this morning. So that's a really big thing. He wants to start a Bible study with us through Cross Impact at the City College of San Francisco. And he's really pumped. So really neat, just a divine appointment. Answer a really good prayer. And I'll share a little bit more later. We had a good trip to San Francisco. While there, at least it was the other direction in South Carolina. Let's see our newest grandson, Samuel Allen. Hi, Sarah. Good morning. Good morning. So thank you for praying. Some neat things that are happening. Okay, let's take some prayer requests, and we'll get into our topic for the year. Thanks for teaching.
Yes. About dinosaurs.
Today's dinosaurs, a little bit. Yeah. It was kind of my tease dinosaurs. Got kind of
Oh, you're talking about last week. I got you.
Yeah. How was the last week?
It was good. Yeah, it was good.
It was good. You were the teacher. You're not supposed to praise yourself. So you were good. You were good.
Didn't
Amen.
have anybody heckling me standing.
No, heckling, no, that's okay. We'll take that as a victory.
Yeah. Hey, I've got to share this with you. I was in the Charlotte airport and it was and hardly anybody was there as I was going through security. Well, I come up to the line and it relates to dinosaurs. And so anyway, the security agent, that checks your ID and your tickets, he's waving me and no one's behind me and no one is in front of me. So he was looking for something to do. So anyway, so I come up, I give him my stuff and he goes, "Hey, can I show you something neat about your license?" And I thought, sure. So I went around the little podium and he put it under a light. And there's a mountain and a dinosaur on my ID.
Oh, very quick.
So what do you think I did? I said, "Let me show you something."
Oh, no.
That poor guy, yes. Oh my.
Yeah, so here's the guy there, and I kept looking back. No one was behind me. So I got to show him my picture of the dinosaur, and have him look at it. And he goes, "Can I Google it?" No, can't find it that way.
But I have a book for you. Did you tell them about the book? No. Did you tell them about the book? Do you see what I see?
No,
Is
I
that the
didn't
name
have
of it?
that much time.
Okay.
But I thought, this is good.
So we're gonna blame this on Prudence,
Okay.
Yeah.
her family, your mom.
Yeah,
Found
that's
that
right.
book. You see what I see? Did you look for it before you gave it to us? Oh, you should have. Okay, so it's dinosaurs in Jefferson County.
Mhm.
So it's a pretty cool book. Okay. So we'll get to that topic. Thank you for the introduction. Prayer requests, then we'll get to follow up on the dinosaur topic.
Yeah,
Yes,
Sarah.
Sarah.
I've already started. Okay.
Abby and I are traveling back to California this Friday, and we're driving.
Oh, you're driving. You have a car this year?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So let's pray for
Leaving
that.
Friday
That's what, like 800-mile drive? What is that? 2 days or 1 day?
We're doing it on one day. It'll be a 15-hour drive.
How many?
Wait, I thought-
15 hours.
So let's pay for
wait, so basically Abby's driving the first leg and then you're driving the last leg?
Other way around.
Oh,
She's driving in
And
California.
what are you driving? How fast do you average?
We're driving our Nissan Altima, and it'll be whatever the speed limit is.
Not everybody's speeds 5%.
Well, I don't see you. You know. Okay, good. Let's pay for her safe travels. Hey, come on.
Oh, I was gonna say, don't.
Hey, Jane.
Hey,
She didn't go
Jane.
to speed. She had to go. Poor Jade, she comes in with picking on already.
I know, I was like, she didn't even give.
Did you sleep any last night? Did you work all night?
No, I started on 3-day weekend, so
Good to see you.
yeah, I don't have a good excuse.
Okay. All right, another prayer request. Yep, Sarah.
So I had my interview for the membership position this week, which was terrifying because it just happened middle of the day and I wasn't necessarily completely prepared for it. But basically I was the only one that kind of applied for it. So basically what we're doing is I'm gonna do a 30-day trial with them. I'm gonna be full-time in membership starting September 12th. So just that it goes well. And I also talked to her about getting like Sundays off, and I think they're gonna try to finally work around that. So pray that that actually gets answered and I can have my Sundays completely off.
Nice, nice, good. Pray for Sarah on that. Yeah, why don't we have you pray in a moment, and anyone else pray with us? Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just want to share an update. I talked to the people on power groups on Thursday night, but been trying to witness to a coworker of mine. Can I mention his name is Nawadi. And he's like officially Mormon, but has like a lot of discrepancies with like the Mormon church. And so I haven't really done anything, honestly. He's just been asking a lot of questions. And so it's just been really like great to just converse with him and just kind of show him like Christians aren't what he perceives them to be. So I think that's been going well, but just continue for that.
Amen. That opportunity. Yep, Connie.
I got a new job.
Nice.
I'm going to be working as a receptionist, but which is great because the upside is that I can wear office attire, so uniforms, which you again, which I've been used to. But the downside is that I will be working on Sundays,
Okay.
and I didn't want to push it because I was desperate to get out of where I was because it's a much heavier job, and so this is a lighter job. So pray for me. I will be coming Sunday nights for my worship, and I'll be coming Wednesdays to Trust in Cars. And just pray for me that I stay faithful in the interim for like Sunday mornings and stuff. I start at 8 o'clock on the Sunday morning.
When do you start? Next week?
I start right after Labor Day.
Okay, let's pray for Connie. In due time, hopefully we should transition. Yeah, that time. Yep, Sam.
Pray for this young man that I met down in Alabama. His name was Robert. It's that God leads him.
Okay, it was interesting when we were at Camp Utica, there were 2 Mormon girls there. And Mormons have different branches, denominations, whatever you want to call them. And the 2 girls that were there were from the most strict Mormon sect and a polygamous group. I don't know if you guys knew that.
FLDS.
That's what did I say? Yes.
And then I
FLDS.
said something to one of the guys. I was like, "You ever heard of the FLDS?" And he's like,
Sam put his mouth there. It was cleaned up. It's cleaned up and no harm was done.
That first service is funny. You guys, who's ever opened their mouth and said something stupid stuff? They put
He looked right at me. I was like,
I'm glad that you say it. But those 2 girls went to the equestrian camp for a couple of years. And that sect has a really rough background.
How
with
are they
polygamy issues.
allowed to go?
Well, that's the big question. Once you start breaking away from Mormonism, you pay. You pay, you lose your jobs, you lose
Well,
your.
they were from FLDS, but they weren't part of it anymore.
Oh, they were.
Oh,
Yeah, they were.
Some people have to move their businesses because they get blackballed.
I
didn't
know that.
I know.
So
I
it's-
just surprised that they were able to talk with you, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because they're like Amish, like they're super, super
Yes.
like
super conservative, isolated people. Yeah, and that was a unique opportunity that camp has. They were able to witness the 2 girls again and their parents.
I think it was the question factor, though, the why they were there. The
They
question.
love horses, but they noticed something different about the group. Times back, Ms. Garcia said that some Mormons view us as Christians and have their perceptions of us, and often those aren't true, because the Mormons are talking us down, believe they're trashing us, especially Baptists, they just trash us, and a lot of untruths.
People
So,
who saw the pedophile talk us down.
Did you watch that documentary?
No.
There's a
but I've
documentary on
I've
Netflix
seen
about 'em.
A bunch of.
it's a
other
nasty problem. Our son was out there for some while. Okay, let's have Caleb pray. We'll dive into our topics. Did we miss any other prayer requests? I don't want to shortchange this on that. This is critical. Okay, go ahead. Caleb.
Lord, I thank you for this time we gather together, learn from your word. Thank you for bringing pastors in and set back safely from the truths. Pray for us to be fruitful. For your glory, Lord. We pray for those schools that they inquired about across the back streets, people that connected. Pray that those flourish and the gospel to others, and that many people come to know you. It's a great need over there. A lot of people are looking for a lot of answers, a lot of hope. That ministry can definitely do your guidance in that. I pray for Sarah Risma from Travel Mercies at California School. That you keep them safe as they travel. Come back again soon to be with family. Pray for Sarah Rodriguez, that her interview went well, and that hopefully this promotion can work out right for her, and that maybe she can get her Sundays back, be back here in the house of the Lord, worship the Lord. Not have to worry about it. Pray, Lord, for Tiffany, his coworker, Lonnie. She had a chance to put this a little bit, talk about our faith. That you would work in his heart and work in his life there. Use Tiffany to be a guiding light. Pray for Connie. She got a good job. We'll rejoice in that. Hopefully, be a much better situation for her. Pray that you be with her and comfort her. Since she's not able to attend Sunday mornings, she can still come on Wednesdays and Sunday nights and still come worship you. Still be used by you. We pray for Sam's friend Robert. Got a chance to listen a little bit to him, pray that he will work on his life. Bring him to you. All these things we ask in your name.
So let's talk a little bit about dinosaurs. Some people ignore or deny them altogether. That's often hard to do with all the evidence around us. We're in a fantastic state for studying dinosaurs. We have Dinosaur Ridge right outside of Golden. And we were creating a new highway over that little ridge as we're cutting into the bank. They exposed a whole layer of footprints of 20 plus different dinosaurs. Yeah, very impressive. How many of you seen those dinosaur prints on the side of the road? That just look incredible. If you've not seen that, we need to do it. Come on in.
Holy cow, guys. All of the chairs.
Let's talk about the holy cow for just a moment. The cow in the room, the elephant in the room. We're going to probably change rooms in 2 weeks. I'll let you know. Because this is great. It doesn't allow us any room for growth. Or anything back to school. So
You could always sit in the middle of
I'd like to see our chairs. You should sit on
So
As long as the coffee machine gets moved.
not a problem.
Pastor, we need more smoke machines.
Yeah, exactly.
Sister, there are fewer chairs in here than normal because I thought with the ones that had left, I put less chairs in here
I
than
saw
normal.
a psychological move. That was brilliant. Did y'all notice that? There weren't enough seats. And then I noticed that. She's sneaky. Those Southern girls, you have to watch out every time.
It's not nice.
So we will likely move in organize another room, probably the Vietnamese church room, former church room is probably where we're going to go, and that will probably come get it. So we'll let you know next Sunday. But anyway, the Dinosaur Ridge is fantastic. We have a town named Dinosaur. I've gone through it. A huge number of dinosaurs down in the northwest quadrant of the state, just overwhelming. The book of Lisa was just given by the Trumans on Can You See What I See, with all these evidences of dinosaurs in our just Jefferson. Just amazing stuff. So for the Minds Bible study, we're thinking of covering geology, God and geology, and dealing with Bible, mountains in the Bible, and then doing some hikes this semester. And I think Lisa's new love for dinosaurs and finding petrified dinosaur rocks, to maybe do some traveling with that book to those locations and see what this guy's seen. And she's made a suggestion, let's see if he's available to take us and kind of give us his overview. He's a creationist from all we can tell, and just to share his finds and his thoughts. I think it was very, very, very interesting. We had a guy that came to speak a couple years ago, 2 years ago. His name was Ron Samick, Dr. Samick. His field of expertise is physics. He's written a phenomenal report on the moon, all the craters. If you look at our moon, there's only one side that has, it's been blasted by meteorites. And he has a theory on that. It's very, very intriguing. And he believes there's a connection with that and with the flood. And that's a whole different topic. But he loves the stars and he loves these things, but he also goes on digs for dinosaurs. And he was up in the Dakotas, very south or north. They ran into some digging with dinosaur bones. And in that, they found a Triceratops. And it was one of maybe the greatest find of that type of dinosaur in the world. It was complete. So you can see articles on this as well. So they were able to hijack that find, and they did something that the science world often disapproves. So what they did, it had tusks on it. It had the system up here, those, what the Triceratops looks like. So they cut into those, and what they found was soft tissue. Okay, soft tissue. So what does that mean? That means
It's not as old as
it's pretty young, okay?
So like blood cells and
Yes, yes, so exactly. So an incredible find. And of course, the DNA on the dinosaur is very young, very young. So that's a fascinating study. The study in DNA is destroying so much pseudoscience, just destroying it in so many fields. All these finds of Cro-Magnon men-like figures, these links between a monkey or whatever and man. Lucy, for instance, all these different people. Now the DNA studies, where they're allowed to do them, they're just finding the DNA is all human. They're all human. Okay? There's no intermediate anything. They're just humans. Okay? So very, very interesting. In Africa, there's been reports out of the huge swarms of some very interesting creatures. And so scientists have gone into those villages saying, describe what you've seen. And they've taken the skeleton structure of your pterodactyls and other dinosaurs, and they did artist renditions, what they perceive they might look like, and independently going through the villages, everyone's pointing at the pterodactyl, every single one of them. Okay?
So actually, there's a picture really somewhere in one of the museums in Texas where there are cowboys holding a pterodactyl that was shot down. And it's not an edited picture because it's been there forever.
It's interesting.
So-
Also in Texas, you have dinosaur prints in the mud and alongside our human prints.
When I Google it, the pterodactyl was like cowboys were
Wait, is that a pterodactyl the bird?
It's
Yeah.
the bird.
So they see the bird?
They see the bird and
See the
the
face.
strings. You have the Japanese, shipping fishing company just probably 40 years ago. They were out fishing and they dredged up this enormous dinosaur, sea monster. And it was so rank and it was just so nasty that they did something horrific. They threw it back in. They took pictures of it. We have a pretty good record of the pictures. Definitely dinosaur. So the point is, I believe in dinosaurs. I don't believe they're as old as they like to say they are. And probably there might be some evidences of some still surviving. Most of them are extinct, most people you should think of. So in the Bible, we have the oldest book, about 1900 years old, BC, and it's written by Job. And Job, as you know, from our study, has been struggling with his problems in life. He's lost everything other than his wife, and she's pretty useless. She just says, curse God and die. You know, she's not helping. She's playing on the side of Satan on this in that regard. So the poor guy's lost his health. He's near death. He's lost his kids. He's lost his wealth. He's lost everything, and he doesn't know why. And later, God's going to reveal to him why, that it was a test. It was a test. Satan charged God that you can't have people follow you unless you buy them off. They don't love you. They only love you because of what you do for them. You remove the blessings and they'll curse you. And Job ended up, passing that test. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. They asked God a lot of questions. So you have Job's problems, and then you have his three friends who just come in and blast them. Okay, we're going to talk about those guys in a moment. And Job, he gets blasted, he responds. The next one blasts him, he responds. The next one blasts him, he responds. And they do it all over again. And so that kind of walks us through the book to the conclusion. So we're going to pick the conclusion up. And why don't we start in chapter 38 and following, and watch the argument now. Because God's going to step in, and he's the one who's going to take control of the conversation. And not the three friends or the young buck that waits his turn in line to try to assess the situation. So we come to chapter 38, and then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind. Now this horrific front, this enormous condition. And he starts to ask Job questions. And he's going to take him on a tour of astronomy. And then he's going to take him on a safari. And he just walks him through all these questions. Where were you? Just we pick up any of them, like verse 5. Who hath laid the measures wherever thou knowest? Or who hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Or who shut up the sea with doors when they break forth as it had issued out of the womb? He just takes him through this enormous discussion, and just question after question after question after question. You get to chapter 39, he's raising questions about animals and just pointing to the Creator who magnificently made those. And just on and on and on and on, building these questions in the argument that I am God, I am sovereign, I'm almighty, and you don't need to question me. I'm very much in control, and you need to trust me though I slay you. So you get through these several chapters, and then we come to chapter 40, and we have the arguments just building from the creation, all the earth and the stars and blah, 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 and then all these animals. And now he gets to Behemoth, the largest land animal. So today, what would you say the largest land animals? What would you say? Okay, the elephant's pretty big. The rhino's pretty good size. Hippo's pretty good size. Giraffe, yeah, huge. And these are pretty big animals. Anything bigger than those?
On land?
On land, yeah.
Sea turtle.
That's sea turtle. Okay. So we have some pretty good sized animals. So when we see the description here of this guy, which one of those fits the description? So let's just see if we find one. So verse 15, he says, behold, now Behemoth. He's saying, right now, behold. The way the verbs are set up, it isn't like, go back to your second grade of your science books. He's saying, right now, you can see this. Right now, 1920 BC, Job, God speaking to Job, Job, you can go and you can behold this guy. You can see him right now. This is after the flood. This is after the flood. Okay. So here's Behemoth, which I made with you. I've made you as man. I made this beast here, Behemoth. And then he describes this creature, and what he's trying to illustrate here is I'm the creator of this incredible beast. So Job, you're puny and I'm great. You're small and I'm omnipotent. Is the idea. So he's really making a strong point here. And this is after he's already described 12 animals in chapters 38 and 39. So I made he eats grass as an ox. Okay. So what large animals eat grass as an ox? Well, an ox is pretty big. They eat grass. My dog eats grass. I don't know if that's good or not. Is that good?
It is, it's good,
Is it good, okay?
but it just means he doesn't have vitamins.
Oh. Thanks. Well, yesterday he got a real infusion of honey. Yeah, he ate Elisa's honey candy.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the kids, my grandkids and Stephanie bought this little angel. It's a candle, but it's made out of beeswax. And I noticed this stuff on the floor, and I thought, what in the world is that? And then I realized that my little angel was gone. I put two together.
So your little angel
And I
was eaten,
tried
was
to get
eaten
him,
by your
Marby, I
baby.
said, none of your beeswax. That's right. I'm doing all of my paint by numbers. I have a really cool one coming. And it has thumbtacks to help. And he ate all my thumbtacks.
What?
Oh, yeah, he loves
That's
metal.
not good.
That's
No,
not
it's
good.
not, no.
That,
I don't, that could be a
I thought that was
problem.
an iron.
that might be
I thought that
okay.
was an iron deficiency. So we have the ox here, all right, the ox here eats grass. Does the hippo eat grass, elephant eat grass? Probably eats grass, yeah, okay. So maybe that's some use to, okay. And then it says low now, his strength is in his belly bop, his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly. So this animal, you know, our strength also often comes from our core. Want to build your core. There's rock under my mud. Okay, there's rock under my mud. There's strength there. Core. So you work off your core. When you're raking a lot, man, it starts with your core. So the core of this animal is incredible, incredibly powerful. So which one has strength in its core, the belly? You just say, oh, this creature. Giraffe. That might jump out. Maybe the rhino. Okay. Maybe the elephant. All right. And then we talk about its tail. So it does have a tail. And if you go into Israel and you go north to the border, the country north of it, it's Lebanon, and that's where the cedar trees grow. And they're spectacular, they're beautiful trees, and they're huge. They could be 100, 150, 200 feet tall. These are really big trees. There's a place just north of San Francisco. It's called what?
Muir Woods.
Muir Woods is the name of it. They're beautiful trees. Yeah, beautiful trees. So the description here is being brought into play, similar to Muir Woods. So in your mind, the county has it, Muir Woods. You can see the trees, big, long, tall trees. And this thing has a tail like a cedar tree, the length of a cedar tree. So by looking at its tail, you say, wow, that reminds me of a cedar tree. So
Kind of like the Chrysler.
like the Chrysler though. So now what's that do with the possibility of it being an elephant?
Not the elephant.
And the hippo, poor hippo, see a hippo, see an elephant. Okay, now we're on, where do we go now? It's not a rhino,
Go to the
Not a
museum
giraffe.
downtown.
alligator.
You see what natural is.
So now we're going into the realm of something different than what we're thinking. This is the largest land beast, right? So if you do go down to the History Natural Science Museum, you go into the main foyer, you see a monster dinosaur of a tail the length of a cedar tree. He moves his tail like that. The sinews of his stones are wrapped together. His bones are strong pieces of brass. His bones are like bars of iron. He is the chief of the ways of God. So when the word chief, does anyone else have another translation? And if you do, what's verse 19 say? First or foremost? Mhm.
What is it?
He's the first or works of God.
So what he's saying here with the word chief and first is he is the largest. He is the numero uno of all the animals on the land. So this is one whopper. So creation scientists, acknowledge the dinosaurs and recognize that they're rather large. And so then when they come to passages like this, they're trying to figure out which of the dinosaurs was the largest, the chief, the most.
I was gonna say, in the museum, the dinosaur section, not the first one that you see when you come in, but if you go down there, you'll see a huge, I forget the name of it. It used to be called Brontosaurus, I think, until they changed the head, they realized they had it wrong. But if you see that dinosaur, it fits this description perfectly. In its tail, they have mounted, and it goes around the room, so you may remember that. So it does fit this almost
think perfectly.
So if there's any real dinosaur students here, what is the largest of the dinosaurs, the land creatures?
Yeah. The long one.
Diplodocus or
Diplodocus?
Diplodocus is one of them, Some say Apatosaurus. And when you study these things, you'll find out what happens is sometimes they've dug up a dinosaur, but it's missing parts. And they'll find another dinosaur maybe a mile away, and they'll join parts. So your Apatosaurus has a Diplodocus head. I mean, sometimes they mix the body parts, and later they got found out, and hey, you cheated. You're really, that's not right. So Diplodocus is one option. Apatosaurus is another option. Whatever that largest one is, that's it. Okay, that's it. Okay.
Whatever Nessie is.
Whatever Nessie is. I think she's a water creature.
That's kind of where the Japanese.
Yeah, it's a plesiosaurus.
Just like that.
Yeah, it was a plesiosaurus is what the Japanese got up. So that was a long neck thing. Yeah. All right, so that's the land beast. But God's not done with Job. He's saying, well, you know how, behold it, you can see it right now, Job. And how do you measure up to this monster creature? You're really puny. And you can't control that guy. And yet I created it. So who are you to speak back to me? Who are you to try to control me, manipulate God? And then he goes to his last argument. Now he's going to dial it up. This is his strongest argument to make Job feel real small and to humble himself, to humble him. So verse 1 of chapter 41, can you draw out Leviathan with a hook? So does your son fish with you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing like taking the grandkids out and their little bobber, and their little Mickey Mouse fishing pole. And you got their little hook and they catch a fish. Man, that is big time. They hold the realest things in, So Bennett loves the fish. I loves the fish. Oh, so he's saying, can you catch Leviathan with a Mickey Mouse rod and a hook?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
Or his tongue with a cord. Can you rope this thing in? Can you do rodeo work for this guy? Which thou let us down. Can you put a hook into its nose or his jaw through with a thorn? Will he make supplications unto you? He's going to beg for mercy. We speak soft words unto you, plead with you to help. Please stop. We make a covenant with you. Will you take him for a servant forever? Will you play with him as with a bird? Or will you bind him for your maidens? Here's a pet for our workers. Shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with barbed irons or his head with fish spears? Lay thy hand upon him. Remember the battle. Do no more. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? None is so fierce that dare stir him up, who then is able to stand before him. And then he's going to describe what the Leviathan looks like. Okay. And the qualities of this guy is pretty spooky. So again, who can put bridle on this one? Obviously, all these rhetorical no answers. Who can open the doors of his face? His teeth are terrible round about, verse 14. So just the teeth, good night. His scales are his pride, shut up together with a close seal. So you have all these scales in this thing. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. To join one to another, they stick together that they can be not sundered. So he's impenetrable. How do you take this guy out? By his sneezings. What's sneezings? By his sneezes. When he sneezes, and animals do sneeze. Our dog sneezes, and we sneeze. By his sneezings, a light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. So the incredible light that you see in his eyes, and there's some type of internal light source here. This is quite an interesting creature being described here. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Now we're talking something quite unique. That does not describe an alligator or a crocodile. Out of his mouth go burning. Out of his nostrils goes smoke, as out of a seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindleth coals, and a flame goes out of his mouth. In his neck remains strength, and sorrow is turned into joy before him. The flakes of his flesh are joined together, they're firm in themselves, they cannot be moved. His heart is as firm as a stone, yea, as hard as a piece of the nether millstone. When he raises up himself, the mighty are afraid. By reason of breakings, they purify themselves. The sword of him that lays it in cannot hold, the spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. He esteems iron as straw, and brass as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned with him into stubble. Darts are counted as stubble. He laughs at the shaking of a spear. Sharp stones are under him. He spreads the sharp pointed things up on the mire. He makes it deep to boil like a pot. He makes a sea like a pot of ointment. He makes a path to shine after him. One would think the deep be hoary. Upon earth there's not his like. Who is made without fear? He beholds all high things. He's a king over all the children of pride. So this, whatever this thing is not, we don't have one of these today.
Oh,
Okay. As far as I know.
I mean, Pastor, you're,
What's that? Thank you. Thanks.
hey, you took a shot at me at camp.
I'm gonna take more shots. I'm a pulpit bully. You're so close. No, I deserve it. I deserve it. Okay, so we have here some incredible creation. And God's is looking at, here's exhibit A, Behemoth, here's exhibit B. The size of this, the way it's created, the complexity of it is phenomenal. The complexity is really something astounding. So it's really the humble Job. Okay. So this is a sea creature. It was alive in Job's day. This isn't, 50 billion or whatever years old. This is very, very young, very young. Okay. And they obviously have died out as far as we know. So when it comes to dinosaurs, I believe the Bible addresses at least two here, and they were contemporaries with Job, 6,000, 4,000 years ago. Okay, any comments on dinosaurs? Want to change into chapter 42, great ending here.
I will say dinosaurs probably don't look what you think they look like.
No. What Debbie said is so true. You want to comment on that guy again? Maybe we get
I don't know if he still does them, but Bill Jack, he is with, he does creation tours at the Museum of Nature and Science, and we've done those a couple times with him, and he will go through and he will point out basically like the very first one that you see when you come in. He goes, this is artwork, meaning they've never found this completely. This is what they think it looked like. Then he will go to the ones that they have found that are complete, and he'll go, this is real. This is artwork. And he's very bold about it. And he gets lots of looks when you're in there. If you do one with him, and he'll get people that'll be confrontational a little bit. And he's got the answers for every single thing he says. There was one picture we were looking at where it had, I'm trying to think, it was a tooth. And he said, see how they put this right at a kid's level? His teeth. And they say it developed from scales. He's like, no. And he gives you the reason why. So he's really good. I don't know if he still does them, but
we need to
Bill
check.
Jack.
I think there's interest here for us to do this. Maybe Pike, the guy that's referencing something like this.
That would be fun.
The evolutionists are very unethical.
Mhm.
Not all, but many. And with their pictures, it's artwork. It's just guesses. It's imagination. Sometimes it's biases. Like when you see the horses, the evolution of a horse, and you have this horse, the next one, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. They take these different horses, which are different breeds, and they put them in an order like that. That's not the order in which they're found or been used, but they create this order, kind of like the monkey and then the man bent over, and you have this ongoing evolution. It's all baloney. It's just not right. It's not true. It's artist's work, So you got to be very careful what you read. But we believe in science, true science, and we're for it. And true science does not contradict to understanding the Bible. Yep.
There's another study I think that goes along with this, and it's the study of giantism and some of the facts concerning, it's not like we were small, we got big. There's evidence that shows there was a period of time, and I don't know enough about it, but you could probably look it up and study it, where, for instance, there were 11-foot skeletons that are found buried in France somewhere. These types of things, or beavers that they find that are 6 feet long, extinct. And so there's a lot of evidence for very, very large things that we see as small today. So giantism is a good study to go with.
Yeah, on that point, so the Smithsonian, they used to have a skeleton of the giant
Oh,
that
cool.
they've since gotten rid of
Oh,
because it
Put it
defies
in a
everything that
closet.
They haven't gotten rid of it. It's in the basement.
Yeah.
I have a couple of it.
This was the one.
Out of sight.
When I was a kid, I had a book, it was a creationist book on dinosaurs, and it was talking about this passage about Leviathan, how he breathe out fire, sounds like a dragon. So it was interesting how they analyzed another dinosaur, the duck-billed one that has that weird like for that. So they did like a cross section of it, and there's chambers that go up through, and it comes out the nose, and it is similar to like what a torch would use, or like the bombardier beetle. The chambers and the head of this dinosaur were very similar to the bombardier beetle that does actually, it's a little beetle that does blow fire out of its rear. So it's kind of crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we're gonna change gears here. I would like to come back. Is anyone interested in hiking, seeing these petrified dinosaur rocks? I am. I think we should do it. I think we should do it. We'll see if we
If you can
can
do it,
what's that?
another.
I think we can maybe look for a tour guide. It was really neat. A couple of years ago, Ken Ham was out here, and I think he called me, or I called him, and we met together. It was really fun. So we met, just he and I, and I said, Ben, you want to go meet Ken Ham, talk with him and I? And he said, yeah, Dad. So I bought Benny Boo Boo and actually his wife at that time.
Pastor, who was the gentleman that came through, you guys might remember, several years ago that spoke to our class?
But he was talking about the giraffes and how when they put their
Yes.
heads down,
Who was
they had like a
that?
special sponge. I can't remember.
Who was he friends with? Was it the Mains? Anna Mains? Was it?
I
Yes.
don't remember.
Anna.
I remember his description of the
was
giraffe.
He was fascinating.
That was good.
Anna's friend.
He
Yeah.
was really good, an older gentleman that was trying to really make us aware of the fact that if we don't continue his work, that, you know, it will just kind of get buried.
What's his
But
name? Matt Weeks.
I can't remember. I could ask
7
Anna.
years ago.
I think there's a high interest. I think we should get a tour guide. I'm not sure if Ken Ham will come do it with us, but we can probe a little bit. So we got.
Well, it very much so falls into apologetics and stuff.
It does.
So much garbage thrown at you.
So if we do the study at the mines, we would invite the mine students. And, you know, Hezekiah will tell you, and David will tell you, there was a guy who came to Hezekiah and said, I'm so glad to meet you. You're the only creationist I've ever met. And I always want to know what one looked like. Yeah, is the earth flat? Yeah. Okay, let's go to chapter 42 and change gears just a little bit. So poor Job, he's really struggling, but now that God has spoken to him in his face, all these questions, Job does humble himself immediately. And I love what happens here in this chapter. God continues, let's see, verse 6. In response of all what we discovered and more, wherefore, verse 6, I abhor myself, I repent in dust and ashes. So Job really humbles himself. And he really apologizes for the way he responded to God and had a wrong view of God. So he gets things right. And it's interesting. It was so that after the Lord had spoken these words unto Job, the Lord said to Eliphaz, now he's going to go after Job's friends and basically say, have you really spoken properly and right to my servant Job? Of course you haven't. And you're going to see some intercession going on for these friends with Job, and some sacrifices that have been put into play here, verses 8 following. But verse 10 is a key point. This is the turning point for Job to be able to move forward. He had these 3 friends who, when he really needed a friend, treated him like trash. Okay. So now that Job is right with God and has a right understanding of theology and who God is, and he can go back to trusting him in faith, it says the Lord turned the captivity, all that bondage, all that build up everything in Job's heart. God turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. And then also Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. We looked at that moment. With that forgiveness, he prayed. And he prayed for his friends. And implies he's forgiving them, he's praying for them. Usually when you can pray for someone, that's a good indicator that your heart towards them is in a much better position, unless you're praying in a precatory prayer where you're wishing God would kill him, you know. But that's not the type of prayer we view here. Job's willing to intercede with sacrifices for his friends, just like he offered sacrifices for his children earlier in the book. So I just thought, you know, who would you say you would have a hard time praying for? Who do you have a hard time forgiving? And, you know, all of us have probably been mistreated at one time or another. And what happens if we're harboring some unforgiving spirit or some bitterness, resentment, a grudge, whatever you want to call it, you're not going to go forward spiritually. You just aren't. until you finally say, Lord, while I stand praying here to you, I'm going to give my heart to this person. I want to pray for this person. And that's the turning point when you can do that. So what would you say, just generically speaking, what are sore spots that Christians run into where, man, this is really hard to forgive this person? What would be some examples? You don't have to give your personal ones, but just generically speaking, where are the real alleys in the Christian life where you might have a hard time forgiving and even praying for that person? In fact, you don't want to see it.
Anytime pride is involved, when they hurt your pride,
Pride's involved?
Yeah.
Okay.
like if they spread a rumor about you, like, I did that, how dare they say about me that?
Okay. So someone who lies about you or misrepresents you, that hurts. That hurts. Yeah. And if you serve God, you're gonna have lies about you. Just as Satan's a slanderer, he's a liar, and he wants to undermine your influence by creating lies. It's really, really hard. And what happens with a lie, you can't go back and pick up all those, those details. You can't make it all right. You can't tell everyone the truth. So let me get, who else did you talk to? Well, I talked to 80 people. And they talked to another 20 people. And that person talked. You can't go and chase it all down. So you have to trust God. Say, God, you have to take care of this. This is way beyond my pay scale. Uphold me in my integrity. So being lied about, misrepresented. Okay, what else?
You tell somebody something in confidence,
Yeah.
and they take that and turn and use that against you.
I'm tempted every week. I'm in a counseling situation. I'd love to tell the whole church. Just a really great story. I can't. I shouldn't. Okay. Yeah. So what
Let me
happened?
tell you about this crazy couple.
Listen, I met this crazy couple. You wouldn't believe this woman. Yeah. And you say, well, and you're sitting out there saying, he's telling our story. Honey. That's happened in churches, believe me. It happens in life where you thought you had a friend, and you share something you thought that they would handle, and then they don't. That kills you. And it really hurts your relationship. It talks in Proverbs about that type of person, that whisperer. It says separates very friends. They can do harm to even your relationship with others, your closest friends. They can put a wedge or a splinter in there and really do damage. That's hard to forgive that person. Maybe hard to pray for that person, or kill them. Okay. What's another topic that might be hard for people? Yep, Sarah.
I think even like leadership or pastors or somebody that you're supposed to trust, parents, and something like that would be hard to forgive.
So people in positions of leadership in your life, authority roles that aren't perfect, that fail you, disappoint you. I know when I was being interviewed here, Kim Hurst asked the question, all right, Pastor Sam, if you come here, what can we expect? And I said, you can expect that I'll disappoint you. You can count on that. I don't know what else you can expect, but you can count on that. So people, humans disappoint you, leaders disappoint you. If I haven't disappointed you, I will. Just maybe tomorrow, actually, believe. It's just, but so what happens? People drop the ball, disappoint you, hurt you, and it's hard sometimes to forgive them. But sometimes what happened there in that dropped ball is really significant. An oversight is really big. Now you want they didn't keep their word. I can't trust them. Wow. I think sometimes the Lord takes people off your pedestals so that the one on the pedestal is God. When I started the ministry at age 24, 25, I had heroes of the faith. And I ran into a chainsaw with the first year of ministry. And every single one of those heroes came off the pedestal. And I realized they're just like me. They're just mere sinners saved by grace. They're just mere men. That really helped me. It hurt. But I learned I'm just going to trust God. Man's going to disappoint me. Okay, that's a great example. Okay, someone else. There'll be another time. Same thing.
I think, I'm sorry.
Someone who's on like a complete opposite end of the political spectrum.
Oh yeah.
Well, depending on how hateful they are.
Well, just like if you don't agree with me, like you're not a word.
It's really hard.
I remember Pastor said you were talking about that time your survey results. And how
Yes.
some people said you talked about politics too much.
Yes.
And then some people said you didn't talk about politics enough.
Oh, it's so funny. It's so funny. But what Sam's saying, it is sometimes hard when you have a biblical worldview and you see certain things so clearly. And then there's someone on the opposite of your Christian worldview screaming liberal in their views and blind as a bat and dumb as a brick. And you just say, and they're doing damage, maybe they're in a position of power and they're destroying things. You just think, I can't pray for them. They're idiots. I can't stand them. I hate them. No, I need to pray for them. Extra prayer. But that's a really good illustration. Someone else. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna step up in there. I think as you let people get closer to you in your circle, in your orbit, where you open your heart up to that person, whether it's brothers, sisters, moms, dads, family, or whoever it is, and you've let them get really close to you, you've shared your thoughts, your ideas, and then maybe there's a betrayal, or I think the potential for having the hardest time to forgive is those people who are closest to you.
Like a Judas. How do you forgive a Judas or a Ahithophel? Good. Sarah.
Kind of going off of one of Sarah's is hypocrisy and leadership. When someone is not willing to admit they're wrong, and they're always thinking they're right. Especially our generations, we love that. The church because of that, we don't want to forgive those sorts of things.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And then someone won't humble themselves and admit they're wrong. Yeah, that's very hard. And you say, look, you're so proud. You're so proud. You can't admit mission of wrong. Yeah, it's always, you know, you don't want to mess up, but when you do, humble yourself and say, Lord, forgive me. And whatever that orbit in which you messed up on, that's the orbit in which you apologize. So if it's a one-on-one thing, you know, apologize one-on-one. If it's in our class, you apologize in class. It's in front of the church. And so I had a misinterpretation maybe about 3 months ago. There's a very secondary way off disappoint. I used to do pretty thorough research on everything. And I added that point that morning and didn't follow up and studying it more carefully. And I gave the wrong view of whatever it was. Yeah, right, thank you.
And I also wasn't there that Sunday. I was listening over Zoom. So.
You held that against me. Whatever that was.
No, Pastor, you guys look at this
I was
as keeping you
impressed by
accountable.
No, but like that lady that corrected, she came at the door and she was a bulldog.
No.
I wanted to rip her head off. That's not very spiritual.
Was she just like barking?
Yeah, she was barking.
She was a chihuahua.
She was a chihuahua. And I said to her, well, thank you for sharing that. I'll look at it this week. And I tried not to be stupid in my reaction. Oh, whatever. And I said I was wrong. I was dead wrong. And then I said, Lord, now I've got to tell the whole church I was wrong.
Okay.
And then I'm thinking, maybe I don't have to. Lord, I don't have to do it, do I? So Lord and I had this conversation for a little bit. And he always wins. He says, no, you were wrong. You need to do that. Get humble, dude. You know?
People have more respect for you,
Yeah.
Pastor.
Well, that's sweet of you to say it, but the point is, it's not easy when we do wrong. Wait till you get married, okay? Wait till you get married.
I don't know. I think it's easy to admit that you're wrong.
Have you done that?
Are you
Okay, so if you're gonna have good relationships, you have to humble and you have to look for forgiveness. You have to forgive. But what you're saying is hypocrisy, and we've all seen it. We see it ourselves, we see it in others. Yep.
I had a question.
Yep, that's fine.
But like in chapter 42, when he prays for his friends, he's being restored, and it says that God gave him twice as much as he had before, so he's more money, more power, more like animals. But then there's also the comment he has 7 sons and 3 daughters, so the same number of children. So I was curious it doesn't say in the Bible, but just kind of your thoughts. Like his wife had previously sent cursed God and died. Do you think she passed away and he got a new wife, or
She was punished
came
by having
back.
10 more.
Oh,
Amen.
No. So this is very clever, but she picked out, that Job lost, let's say, 7,000 sheep, now he's got 14,000 at the end, double. He lost whatever, so many camels, at the end it's double. Everything's double. When it comes to the kids, you're expecting 20 kids, but only 10. Okay, and here's the beauty of that. What's happening is it was double because the other 10 are alive.
He's heaven.
They're in heaven.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so the first 10, the seven sons, 3 daughters, they're quite alive. Okay, they're not on earth. They exited. They're in heaven. So it's a really it's an implication that those kids aren't gone. They're very much in play. They're in heaven, and that Job will be restored to them too. So he got twice as many kids. They're all living. They're all living. Some on earth living, some in heaven living. So it's a very interesting. You caught it.
My question was about the wife, but.
Now the wife isn't mentioned.
Okay, yeah.
Now how old will Job live? So the lifespan 10 years, 70. How old does he live? He lives how many years? 140, right?
40 years after.
So what's that mean? Even his lifespan was double. Even his lifespan was double. Very clever. Doesn't say who his wife was. Did she die? You know, when guys marry a second time, they always upgrade with a younger girl. You know, right? No. No, I've seen. I always watch these guys. They divorce their wife and they marry this younger woman. Saying, "What in the world? This is wrong. This is wrong." So was it the same wife? It doesn't say. Doesn't say. But it's interesting. 7 kids. And how do you like the names? Aunt Jemima. All right, Imama. Verse 14. They call the name of the first Jemima. And the name of the second Kezia. I think that's quite pretty. Kezia. And the name of the third Karen Hapuk.
So they also gave them inheritances as well.
That's
So
unusual.
pretty rare,
That's very, very, typically in this culture, just the men get the inheritance. They take care of their sisters and their parents, but usually the girls. This is an extravagant, gracious man who God has blessed so much, and he has blessed his kids now. And the story ends, you know, this is where James chapter 5 talks about, remember the sufferings of Job. Okay, remember what he went through, but remember his latter end. Here it is. Restoration, blessing, doubling, and everything. And that doesn't always happen with us in this life, but you can be assured in the next life, it's quite the life. It's far better.
Going with what she was saying, in the New Testament, you have that passage where God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. I am the God of Jacob.
Out of those 10 Job kids. Good. Okay, we probably should stop. Go ahead.
I just had a question about lighting, because me and Daniel talked about this a few weeks back, and I heard, it was actually from John Bromley, he said, it's interesting about the Job that the youngest friend is the only one that's not reproved. In the whole book, he's the only person who's not reproved.
And that's because he's the closest to the truth.
But he was still
And
not.
no, he wasn't spot on. He wasn't spot on, but there's something different in his approach to Job than the other 3. You're right. It's a significant point. Good lesson for young guys. We'll get in staff meetings. Nathan Stedman will want to say the first thing. And then they'll catch me, so I should let the old guys know first. Wait. Don't have to do that. Sometimes it's okay, let me pray, of course. We'll be in Psalms in 2 weeks, can't we? Heavenly Father, thank you for this morning. Thank you for this incredible book of Job. We're intrigued with your creation, all the animals in existence today and those which existed before. And it shows us what a great creator you are. And we're not to question you, you're to question us. And we're to just trust you. You're such a great creator. Certainly yield and best to you. Thank you for the story of Job, how he prayed for those who hurt him deeply. He prayed for those who were really ugly and cruel and harsh at the time of his greatest need. Kicked him when he was down. Just thank you that he had the character to eventually be right with you and to pray for those who really were acting like his enemy. Thank you for setting his heart free when he did that. And thank you for the way you blessed him. So Lord, help us be gracious people, forgiving people, praying people. Bless us, we pray as well. In Jesus' name.